On my 45th birthday, my wife stood up at a five-star restaurant, raised her glass, and said, "Let's toast to the man who gave up on his dreams so I could chase mine, because somebody had to stay home and be average." Everyone laughed, loudly. Even the waiter cracked a smile. But me? I just sat there, frozen, holding a forkful of untouched steak while the blood drained from my face. The woman I loved, the mother of my son, had just reduced my entire existence to a punchline. In front of 30 people. And not just any people. Her colleagues, her boss, her new social circle that I never quite fit into. My name's Ethan Carter. And that moment? That was the death of the old me. If you like stories where the quiet guy finally fights back and flips the whole damn table, literally and metaphorically, make sure you subscribe. You won't want to miss how this all ends. Because what my wife didn't know was this. I wasn't just some washed-up, ambitionless husband. I was the reason she drove a BMW, wore designer suits, and lived in a $3.2 million oceanfront home. I was the one who paid for our son's elite private school and her fancy law degree, too. But I never needed the spotlight. I was the man behind the curtain, silent, supportive, and apparently invisible. The restaurant was called Harbor Prime, one of the most exclusive places in San Diego. Private room, floor-to-ceiling windows, ocean view, champagne towers. The whole evening was her idea. She planned everything, invited only her people. Not a single one of my friends was there. Not even my brother. Just her law firm pals, their snobby spouses, and our 19-year-old son Trevor, who barely looked up from his phone. When the laughter died down and the awkward silence started creeping in, I calmly stood up. No yelling, no scene, just me, pushing my chair back slowly and walking out, past the untouched birthday cake with my name written in gold. They thought I was being sensitive. They had no idea I was done playing nice. What nobody knew was that for the past few weeks, I had been working with a private investigator. Something had been off. Lauren had been coming home late, constantly texting someone with a smirk on her face, and she suddenly started pushing for a separate finances conversation. That's when I started digging. Quietly, strategically, and what I found changed everything. She was sleeping with Richard Hale. Yeah, that Richard. The golden boy son of her firm's founder. The heir apparent. Harvard smile. Perfect hair. Trust fund smirk. The same guy who once shook my hand and called me Mr. Lauren. I should have known then. But here's the kicker. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream or beg. That would have given her the upper hand. Instead, I smiled, played the doting husband a little longer, and started setting traps. Lauren thought I was weak. A pushover. A man with no ambition or backbone. She built her whole image around being the powerhouse, wife married to a boring guy who just tagged along. But she had no idea that I had quietly amassed a multi-million-dollar portfolio from investing in real estate and tech startups over the past 15 years. She didn't know I had offshore accounts, or that the very investment group backing her firm's expansion had me listed as a silent partner. She played chess. I played poker, and I was holding a full house while she was bluffing with a pair of twos. After that dinner, I checked into a hotel downtown, overlooking the bay, ordered a whiskey, sat on the balcony, and started making calls. That was the night I decided if she wants to show off how powerful she is without me, I'll let her. Let's see how long her empire lasts once I start pulling the strings she never knew I held. Because the thing about shadows? They move silently. And sometimes, they swallow the whole damn room. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the hotel balcony with a half-empty glass of whiskey, listening to the ocean and staring out at the lights of the city. The same city where, for the last 15 years, I let everyone believe my wife was the one who built our life. That she was the successful one, the smart one, the winner. Truth is, I let her take the spotlight. At first, it didn't bother me. I thought that was love, supporting your partner no matter what. I stayed home more, handled the house, raised our son while she worked insane hours at the firm. I was happy, playing the quiet investor, funneling cash into startups and real estate under different LLCs. No flash, no Instagram posts, just quiet power. But over time, Lauren stopped seeing me as an equal. Hell, she stopped seeing me at all. It didn't happen overnight. It was a slow erosion. It started with the little digs. Why don't you get a real job? Again, you wouldn't understand. It's a legal thing. Ethan, it's just, you don't really do anything anymore. At first, I laughed it off. I thought she was just stressed, but then it became constant. And she'd say it in front of Trevor, too. Our son started parroting it. Dad, how come mom does everything? I just smile. We all contribute in different ways, buddy. But inside, it was like dying by 1,000 paper cuts. I remember. One night about 6 months before the birthday dinner, Lauren came home late, 2 a.m. late. She was dressed to kill. Black heels, tight red dress, makeup flawless. Said she was at a networking event. I asked her why she didn't text. She rolled her eyes and said, I didn't know I had a curfew. That night, I stared at the ceiling while she slept beside me. Her back turned, arms folded, like even in sleep, I wasn't worth facing. That was the first time I considered she might be cheating. But I didn't want to believe it. I blamed myself instead. Maybe I really had become boring. Maybe I let myself go. Maybe I wasn't enough anymore. I started working out again, eating better, bought new clothes, tried to spark things back, planned a weekend getaway for just the two of us. She canceled last minute. Big meeting Monday, she said. Can't afford distractions. I was a distraction now. That was when I hired the private investigator. His name was Carl, old school guy, military background, no drama, no leaks. Within a week, he had photos. Her and Richard, holding hands in the parking garage at work, getting in the same car, kissing behind tinted windows. He didn't even have to dig deep. They weren't being discreet. They thought I was too clueless to notice, but that's the thing about being underestimated. It gives you freedom. I spent the next 2 weeks meeting with lawyers, financial advisors, and setting up fail-safes. Every account, every asset, every piece of my portfolio was tightened up and shifted to trust she couldn't touch. I wasn't planning on just leaving her. I was going to take the scaffolding out from under her entire world. And the best part? She was still smiling at me every morning, sipping coffee in my house, putting on heels I paid for, going to a job funded by my investments. She still thought she was winning. One night, a few days after the birthday disaster, she came into the kitchen while I was making coffee. She was glowing, had that post-ego boost energy. Probably just got praised at work. Or had a good night with Richard. You ever think about going back to school? She asked, casually, like she was suggesting a walk. I raised an eyebrow. Why? I don't know, she said. Just thought it might give you purpose again. Purpose. If quietly building a multi-million-dollar empire from scratch wasn't purpose enough. That night, I opened a secure folder on my laptop labeled Exit Protocol. Inside were copies of our prenup, financial statements, the PI report, emails I'd quietly accessed from our shared iPad. Evidence. Cold, undeniable, reputation-shattering evidence. But I wasn't ready to play my hand just yet. First, I needed to cut her oxygen supply. And I knew exactly where to start. The investment group propping up her firm's new expansion. She didn't know I owned 40% of that group. She didn't know a lot of things. Lauren had no clue that the investment group keeping her firm's expansion plans afloat, the one she kept bragging about at those wine-soaked networking dinners, was partially owned by me. And I wasn't just a passive investor. I was on the board, under a different name, of course, through a shell company registered in Delaware. Clean, quiet, and completely legal. I never needed her to know. In fact, I preferred that she didn't. Until now. I scheduled a meeting with our firm's managing partner through the shell company, requesting a review of upcoming capital deployment. Nothing out of the ordinary, just a routine check-in. What they didn't know was that I had already instructed my personal attorney to begin the process of pulling all our capital out. $12 million, that's what we were about to yank. It wouldn't kill the firm immediately, but it would destabilize every major initiative they had lined up for the next 18 months. New hires, 2 regional offices, the European merger. All of it hanging on invisible threads I was about to cut. But before I did, I needed to make one more stop. My son, Trevor, he was at his college dorm, gaming in sweatpants when I knocked on the door. He looked up like I was the mailman. Hey, he said, clearly not expecting me. Got a few minutes? I asked. Yeah, I guess. We sat in the common room. I told him I was going to be staying somewhere else for a while. I didn't bring up the dinner. He didn't either. Maybe he was embarrassed. Maybe he didn't care, but then I dropped the real reason I came. The trust, I said. You're going to have to earn it. He blinked. What do you mean? I've restructured it. No more automatic access to funds. You'll need to maintain a full-time job for 2 years. Provide quarterly reports. Build credit. Real credit. Not just my name on your bills. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. Mom's. Gonna freak, he muttered. She doesn't control it. Never did. He didn't say much after that. Just nodded. I left him there, stunned, and honestly, that was the first time in years I felt like a father, not just a walking ATM. Back at the hotel, I finalized the divestment papers. My attorney double-checked every clause, making sure there was no legal loophole for Lauren's firm to retaliate. They'd never see it coming. And because it was a silent partner withdrawal, they wouldn't even know who had pulled the trigger. Meanwhile, Lauren was still parading around like the queen of her world. I knew because I still had access to our shared photo cloud. She forgot to disconnect it. So I saw everything she posted to her private story. Brunches with her work besties, wine nights, conference panels, and of course, Richard there. Was one photo that almost made me lose control. Her in his office, legs crossed, smiling like a woman who thinks she owns the room. The caption read, "Power couple in the making." It hit me then. She never even saw me as part of her future. That's when I decided to up the stakes. I wasn't just going to strip the money away, that I was going to take the fantasy, too. The next morning, I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in years, Harold Hale, Richard's father, the founder of the firm, semi-retired, but still the real power behind the throne. He and I met once at a gala 10 years ago. He liked me, said I was refreshingly silent in a room full of peacocks. I asked for a private meeting, told him it was about internal conduct that could affect the firm's image and future funding. That got his attention. He agreed that we set the meeting for a week later. In person. No intermediaries. In that week, I gathered everything. Financial records, call logs, PI photos, the kind of paper trail that would make a compliance officer have a stroke. Not just about the affair, but about favoritism, misuse of firm funds, and unethical promotion practices. Involving Lauren and Richard, they thought they were climbing the ladder. I was about to cut the whole thing down. But I wasn't doing this just to hurt her. I was doing this because she forgot something fundamental. You don't step on the man who built the floor beneath you. I don't believe in revenge that burns everything down. No, the best revenge is surgical. Precise. You don't light a fire. You cut the power, turn off the oxygen, and watch the panic when they realize they can't breathe without you. The day after confirming my meeting with Harold Hale, I went to war. Quietly. Step 1. I called the financial controller of the investment group Lauren's firm depended on. Under the identity of my holding company, I requested an emergency board session. The excuse? Irregularities and long-term risk exposure. Sounded boring. Safe. But what it really meant was, I want out, now. Within 48 hours, we held the vote. My shell company's 40% was more than enough to sway the smaller stakeholders. Funding was paused. Entirely, not reduced. Not delayed. Paused. No press release. No scandal. Just silence. And that silence hit Lauren's firm like a heart skipping a beat. Their planned expansion into Seattle? Suddenly, under review. The merger talks in Berlin? Postponed indefinitely. Contractors weren't getting replies. Vendors stopped receiving deposits. Associates started whispering. And Lauren? She had no idea why. That's when the real cracks started to show. She called me one afternoon, probably expecting me to be confused and concerned. I answered like nothing had happened. "Hey," she said, casual but cautious. "Have you heard anything weird about our firm? There's some weird freeze on new funding. No one's saying anything, but it's like something's wrong." "Oh," I said, playing dumb. "That's strange. Thought things were going great." "Yeah, well, they were," she said, trailing off. "Anyway, just weird." She didn't want to admit she was scared. Not yet. But I could hear it. The cracks in her voice. The pause before every sentence. I'd planted the first seed of doubt. And it was growing fast. But I wasn't done. I reached out to a former senior associate from her firm. Someone Lauren had once pushed out in a ruthless internal coup. I remembered the name. Tara Morrison. Tara had been talented, respected, and conveniently erased when she threatened Lauren's trajectory years ago. I found her on LinkedIn. Then flew her out to San Diego. We met in a quiet lounge downtown. I laid out what I was doing. She laughed when I told her who I was. "You're that Ethan," she said. "I always wondered what happened to you. Everyone thought you were just some golf-playing house husband." "Yeah," I said. "Funny how silence looks like weakness to loud people." I offered her a proposition. I'd fund her own boutique law firm. No strings, full independence. If she gave me one thing in return, information, she had it. Documents Lauren had buried. Emails showing conflicts of interest. Memos suggesting client poaching. All of it copied before she left, backed up and time-stamped. She handed me a flash drive with a grin. Tell her Tara says hi. Back at my hotel, I compiled everything into a master file. I labeled it Lauren Hale, Internal Risk Portfolio. I sent a copy to my attorney, one to my personal digital vault, and one to a third-party compliance firm, with a simple note, anonymous tip. Please review quietly. That same night, I got an email. Richard Hale had been suspended pending internal review. No announcement. No press. Just a quiet line in a company-wide memo. Mr. Richard Hale will be taking a leave of absence as we reassess. Leadership structure. I poured myself a drink. Lauren didn't call that night. She didn't post any pictures either. I imagined her at home, pacing the living room in that overpriced robe she once said made her feel like a CEO. Checking her phone, texting Richard, getting no response. The silence must have been deafening. She was starting to feel what I had felt for years: helplessness, confusion, the sense that the ground under you is shifting and there's nothing you can do to stop it. But I wasn't done yet. I still had one more move before meeting Harold Hale. A move she'd never see coming. Lauren always said control was her love language. Well, she was about to fall out of love with her entire life. After Richard's suspension, the atmosphere around the firm shifted fast. The internal whispering turned into full-blown panic. Junior partners started backing out of projects. Clients started requesting reassurances. And the top-level executives? They were scrambling behind closed doors, desperately trying to patch holes they couldn't even see. That's what happens when the money ghosts you. The funding freeze I initiated wasn't just affecting expansion. It started bleeding into payroll projections, vendor contracts, even ongoing litigation budgets. Quiet chaos. Strategic collapse that I knew Lauren felt it, even if she didn't understand it yet. She looked like a woman on a sinking ship, still trying to serve champagne. One evening, I went back to the house, not to see her, to collect a few documents from my personal office that she had no idea still held original real estate titles and signed investor agreements. She was in the kitchen, on the phone, pacing in circles. I could hear the desperation in her voice. No, I don't know what happened to the capital commitment. We had the letter of intent. I don't care what Berlin says. This was locked. Paused out a long, angry sigh. No, Richard is on leave. I can't speak for him. He's not responding to anything. I'm handling this solo. Click. She looked up and saw me standing in the hallway, for the first time in years. She looked rattled. Didn't expect to see you, she said. Just picking up some files. I replied. Shouldn't take long. She hesitated, then walked over slowly. You know, she started carefully. I know things have been tense lately. I don't want us to be enemies. I raised an eyebrow. That was rich, coming from the same woman who humiliated me in front of her entire office like I was a lawn gnome with a mortgage. I'm not angry, I said calmly. I'm just moving differently now. She tilted her head, trying to read me. I didn't let her dot on my way out. I noticed her laptop open on the counter. Dozens of tabs, legal documents, funding memos, internal HR reports, and a paused email draft. Subject: proposal withdrawal. Lauren Hale. Interesting. She wasn't just losing ground. She was trying to save herself before the floor collapsed, but she had no idea I was already beneath it, pulling the support beams. That night, back at my apartment, I logged into the last remaining joint account we hadn't fully separated, an old one, mostly dormant. I transferred the remaining $37,000 into a private trust, then closed the account entirely. The next morning, I got the notification. Lauren had tried to log in 3 times and was locked out. She called that I let it ring out. 3 hours later, a message from Trevor popped up. Mom's freaking out. What's going on? I didn't reply. Instead, I checked my inbox. The compliance firm had sent a confirmation. They were launching a formal ethics review into internal firm conduct. Translation: Lauren was now officially under the microscope. And, just to make sure she felt it, really felt it, I called a contact at a luxury publication that had once run a glowing feature on her titled The Relentless Rise of Lauren Hale. I gave them a different angle. Off the record, I said, but if you're hearing rumors about leadership instability at the Hale firm, It might be worth looking into. They bit point 2 days later. An article dropped. Trouble at the top? Inside the quiet shakeup at one of San Diego's most powerful law firms. The article didn't name her directly, but it didn't have to. Everyone in her circle knew. She stopped posting that day to no brunches. No boardrooms. No CEO mindset. Captions, silence. And just like that, the woman who once made me feel invisible was starting to disappear herself. Why now? Lauren's world was fraying at the seams. The money was drying up. Richard had gone dark. Rumors were swirling. And the name, Lauren Hale, was no longer spoken with admiration. It was whispered like a warning. A storm was clearly coming, but no one knew where it started. That was by design. That I wanted her to feel isolated, that I wanted her to hear the same silence I lived with for years. The kind that crawls into your bones and makes you question everything. And then, I dropped the bomb. It was a Tuesday afternoon when she got the letter, the formal notice of inquiry from the California State Bar Association. It was short, clinical, and cold. We are reviewing recent anonymous materials regarding potential breaches of ethical conduct. You are required to appear for an initial review meeting within 14 days. I didn't see her open it, but I saw the aftermath. She called Trevor. I knew because he texted me immediately. What the hell is going on? Mom's losing it. She thinks someone's sabotaging her. Sabotaging? No, I was correcting the narrative. I let the guilt sit with her for a few days. Let her stew in her own unraveling. Let her lie awake wondering how everything she built was turning against her. Then I requested the meeting with Harold Hale. Face-to-face. It took place in his private office, not at the firm's HQ, but in a quiet, dark-paneled room in his cliffside estate overlooking the water. Classy, old school, pure-powered. He greeted me with that same disarming charm I remembered from the gala years ago. "Mr. Carter," he said, "I've been hearing some very unusual things." I nodded, opened my briefcase, and handed him a folder. Inside was everything. Emails, timestamps, financial connections, the PI report, Tara's documentation, and copies of every internal irregularity tied to Richard and Lauren that he read in silence. The only sound in the room was the waves crashing far below. When he finished, he leaned back in his chair. "This is bad," he said plainly. I said nothing. "I built this firm to be bulletproof," he continued, voice low. "What they've done could destroy it." Still, I waited. Then he said the words I needed to hear. "I'll handle it." That was it. No drama. No need for threats. Just two men with facts and purpose. Within 72 hours, a new internal directive was circulated. Richard Hale, removed from all leadership duties. Position restructured. Title revoked. Lauren Hale, partner review frozen. Promotion status under legal evaluation. Firm to conduct independent audit. The email leaked within hours. This time, names were mentioned. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just went for a walk on the beach and let the wind hit my face. That same night, I received a message from her. No intro. No hello. Just one sentence. "Did you do this?" I didn't answer. She followed up a few minutes later. "Please, just tell me if it was you." Still nothing. Then finally, "I don't even recognize my life anymore. Are you happy now?" That one made me pause. I wasn't sure what to feel. Not pity, not joy. Maybe relief. Maybe I finally understood what she had never grasped. Power isn't about being seen. It's about knowing you can move mountains and choosing when to do it. She tried to humiliate me once. I rewrote her entire life in return. And the worst part for her? It was all legal. The storm I started was now in full swing. Lauren's professional life was collapsing in real time. Her firm's board had announced the internal audit publicly. Clients were jumping ship. Her name was removed from marketing decks and partnership prospectuses. The woman who once strutted through the lobby like she owned it was now being escorted to meetings by compliance officers. But the scariest part for her? She still didn't know how deep the damage went. That was intentional. Let her guess. Let her spiral. Let her waste energy trying to figure out which wire to cut, not knowing that every wire was mine, and they were all already severed. She called me 3 times that week. I didn't pick up. Then, one evening, there was a knock on my apartment door. I opened it, and there she was. No makeup, hair tied back, designer heels replaced with worn flats. She looked real for the first time in years. "Can I come in?" She asked that I stepped aside. She sat at the edge of the couch, like she didn't know if she was welcome or trespassing. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then she finally broke. I know it was you. She said softly that I didn't reply. You've been planning this, haven't you? Quietly. For months. Maybe years. Still silent. I just want to know why. She looked at me, eyes not angry, but broken. I sat down across from her. You made me feel like nothing, I said calmly. For years. She blinked, but said nothing. You told our son I was useless. You turned my silence into weakness, my support into failure. And the moment you thought you didn't need me anymore, you humiliated me in front of a room full of strangers. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't mean to. Yes, you did. I interrupted. You meant every word. You wanted them to laugh. And they did. She looked down. I let the silence stretch. You never once asked where the money came from. I continued. You lived in comfort, praised yourself for our lifestyle, and treated me like a placeholder. She wiped her cheek. I lost myself somewhere, she whispered. No, I said. You found who you really were. You just didn't expect me to find out, too. She stood up. I'm losing everything. I nodded. I know. Is that what you wanted? I looked at her one last time. No, I said. I wanted my respect back. And I took it. She hesitated like she wanted to say something else, but she didn't. Then she walked to the door, paused, and turned around. Trevor's confused. Hurt. He doesn't understand what's happening. He will, I said. Eventually. When? He grows up and learns what real strength looks like. And with that, she left at no screaming. No slamming. Just the soft click of a door closing on everything she thought she controlled. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the lights of the city that I didn't feel victorious, but I did feel finished. The empire she built on top of my silence had finally crumbled. After that final conversation, I didn't see Lauren again for weeks, but I didn't need to. Her world kept crumbling without my help. First, the audit findings went semi-public. Not in a scandalous headline kind of way, more like a strategic leak. A few trusted legal blogs published pieces hinting at serious leadership misconduct and questionable client acquisition strategies. No names, again, but the implications were crystal clear to anyone in the San Diego legal scene. Then the invitations stopped in more galas. No charity luncheons. No keynote panels. Her inbox, once flooded with social invites, was quiet. And that silence? It was louder than any scandal. Her reputation, the carefully manicured image she spent over a decade building, was melting in slow motion. And the people who once cheered her on, they vanished the second they smelled smoke. That I watched it all unfold from a distance point. One afternoon, I went to grab coffee at a place we used to frequent. Upscale, sleek, full of lawyers, in suits pretending to relax. I saw Lauren there, alone, sitting in the far corner, looking at her phone, scrolling through nothing. She looked up, saw me. That we didn't speak, just locked eyes for a moment. She looked hollow, like someone whose reflection had stopped recognizing them. Later that week, Trevor called me, voluntarily this time. Dad, he said, Mom's not doing great. I know. I think she really didn't see it coming. She never does. There was a pause. You know, he continued, I used to think you were just kind of there, but now, I don't know. I think you were the only one holding it all together. That hit harder than anything Lauren ever said. I appreciate that, I told him. I'm going to visit this weekend, if that's cool. Of course, I said. Always. And for the first time, it wasn't her son calling me. That it was my son calling his father. That same day, a final blow landed. Lauren received an official letter from the firm. Her name was being removed from the partnership track indefinitely. No further discussions. No appeals. Her long-coveted seat at the top. Gone. She didn't post about it. Didn't rage. She just vanished from the scene. People stopped mentioning her altogether, as if pretending she never existed would somehow erase the embarrassment. And for once, she had no stage to perform on. No allies to spin the story. No mirror to feed her ego. She was alone. And me? I was just getting started. Not with revenge. With freedom. The call came on a Thursday morning. Block number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. It was Lauren. Her voice was unrecognizable. No edge, no attitude. Just flat. like all the air had been sucked out of her. "They're removing me," she said. "I know. It's official. Not just the partnership. Everything. I'm out." I didn't say anything. "I spent my whole life climbing, Ethan," she continued. "And now I'm nobody." And there it was. The sentence that started this entire story turned back on her like a mirror she couldn't escape. "You said the same thing to me." I replied. Silence. She didn't argue. Didn't cry. Didn't even defend herself. Just, "I don't know what to do now." For a brief second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the birthday toast. The look on her face. The laughter. The way Trevor sat beside her, staring at his phone while I died inside. So instead, I said, "Start over." Like I had to. Then I hung up. That same afternoon, I called my attorney and finalized everything. The divorce papers. The asset divisions. The trust modifications. Everything I'd set in motion months ago was now real that she'd walk away with enough to survive. I wasn't cruel. But the mansion? Sold. The luxury cars? Liquidated. The passive income streams she never even knew existed? Redirected. And most importantly, the public perception? Shattered. She was no longer the powerhouse. No longer the golden girl of San Diego law. She was a cautionary tale. A name people whispered with. A shake of the head. And Richard? Long gone. After his removal from leadership, he relocated out of state for family reasons. Code 4. Disgrace. They weren't a power couple. They weren't anything at all. Meanwhile, Trevor spent more time with me. We started talking. Really talking. I taught him about investing, about patience, about building something that lasts. He stopped asking about the money. He started asking about life. And that was the biggest win of all. One day, while we were walking by the harbor, he turned to me and said, "You were never weak, were you?" "No," I said. "I was waiting." He nodded. "I get it now." He really did. That weekend, I moved into a new place, sleek, modern, overlooking the ocean. Not flashy, not loud, just mine. The silence there was different. The IT wasn't empty. That IT was peace. Lauren had once tried to strip me of my worth, my dignity, my identity. She didn't realize I was never trying to win her game, that I was building my own. And in the end, I used to think the scariest thing in life was losing everything. But now I know. The scariest thing is forgetting who you are just to please someone who never truly saw you. That I got my name back. Not legally. I never changed it. But emotionally. Internally. Quietly. I wasn't Lauren's husband anymore. I was just me. Ethan Carter, investor, strategist, father, builder. I started mentoring young entrepreneurs, mostly kids with big dreams and no idea how to structure a contract or survive the first year. I didn't do it for the money. I had more than enough. I did it because I remembered what it felt like to be underestimated. Trevor came by every weekend now. We'd cook, watch documentaries, talk about real things like failure, resilience, and what kind of man he wanted to be. He didn't idolize his mother anymore, but he didn't hate her either. And that mattered. He saw her as a cautionary tale. Someone who lost sight of what mattered most. He saw me as a survivor. One evening, we sat out on the balcony, watching the sun disappear behind the Pacific. He said, "I used to think you were invisible." I smiled. That was the plan. He nodded. Smart. Maybe too smart. But at least now, it was out in the open. Lauren never tried to come back. No desperate emails. No letters. No second chances. Just silence. The same kind I used to live with. Except now it wasn't mine anymore. It was hers. Her story had ended. But mine? Mine had just started. That I lived differently now. I don't chase approval. I don't perform for people who don't value me. I walk into rooms with quiet confidence, knowing I don't have to prove a damn thing. Because here's the truth. Sometimes, revenge isn't about destroying someone, that it's about rebuilding yourself so completely that they can never touch you again. So let me ask you, did I do the right thing? Would you have done the same? Drop a comment and tell me what you think. Was I cold or just finally awake? And hey, if this story hit you in the gut, if it made you think, or if you just love seeing the underdog rise, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more stories, and let me know in the comments. What would you have done in my shoes? I've got more stories to tell. You won't want to miss them.